Hi everyone, Mr. Powell here for Knowable World. Welcome back to the History Through Art series of mini lessons on YouTube Kids. History Through Art is a great way to learn about amazing people in history because artists can show us what people did and why it's important all at the same time. That is the power of art. And today we're going to use a great example to show the amazing story of a little girl named Ruby Bridges. Who was she? Let's find out. In Knowable World, we learn to see the world around us more clearly and to understand how it came to be that way. Sometimes that means studying wonderful things, like the invention of writing, which helped people to learn history, or the invention of democracy, which helped people learn how to stop being ruled by kings. Often when we learn such things, there's also a sad part to the story. Before people had writing, they were illiterate, and so kids could rarely learn anything about how to make their lives better. They had to live a very harsh life. Before people had democracy, they had very little freedom. Rulers would control their lives, and kids grew up expecting to fight in whatever war the king wanted, or being forced to give up their food to the king in taxes, or even being forced to become slaves. When America was created, it was the first country in the history of the world to announce that each individual has a right to their own life and to pursue their own happiness. That was thanks to heroes like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, in which it says, "Every person has a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Sadly, it was still normal for people to rule each other, and for some people to control others as slaves in the time America was first born, which means 1776. Today's lesson is not about how that problem was solved. There are still many slaves in the world today. There is still a great need for people to better understand freedom and to make the world a better place. But life has improved in many ways, and one of the heroes who helped make it better was a little girl named Ruby Bridges. Ruby Bridges was a girl who grew up in a time when there was still an important form of discrimination in American society against people of African origin, or African Americans, as they are often called today. For her specifically, the unfairness of life was that there were separate public schools for people of light skin and for children of dark skin. And it wasn't just a matter of separateness. The schools for light-skinned children were simply better. People of darker skin were not being treated fairly, and someone needed to do something about it. Now, usually, big changes come thanks to adults. And there certainly were important adult heroes during that time. The most famous one was Martin Luther King Jr., a Baptist minister and champion of civil rights. The concept of civil rights is a rather complicated one, so we won't get too far into it here today, but the basic idea is that it involves the notion that people can create rights, such as, for instance, the right to a public education. If everybody is supposed to be equal in their rights, as the Declaration of Independence said, and most people believe that one such right is the right to a public education, then everybody should have an equal right to that. But when Ruby Bridges was a little girl about 60 years ago, that was not true. So civil rights champions like Martin Luther King Jr. argued that all kids should be treated equally, regardless of their skin color. But it wasn't enough for adults to say it. The story also needed a child to be a hero. The hero was Ruby Bridges. She became the first dark-skinned girl to go to a public school that had previously been for light-skinned children only. And because so many people didn't like it, she had to be protected by U.S. Marshals on her way to and from school. Imagine how she must have felt. The amazing painting, The Problem We All Live With by Norman Rockwell, tells us the story of the courage of Ruby Bridges in a few amazing ways. First, the artist helps us to understand that the big problem that she must overcome is what is called racism, the treatment of people differently based on their skin color. How does he do that? He places Ruby in a perfectly white dress, which makes her skin look especially dark. Also, he includes graffiti on the wall of a word that is considered so mean to say today that even if I repeat it out loud, the folks at YouTube might get angry with me. So I won't say it. And it's truly a terrible word that you should avoid using as well. Another important thing the artist does is to show that a tomato was thrown against the wall. The reason he shows both of these things on the wall, the tomato and the terrible word, is to show the big problem that some people in America were willing to be very cruel to a small girl because of her skin color. One of my favorite things about that, though, is that Ruby is looking straight ahead. She is not letting people who are angry or racist stop her. She knows what she wants to do. Go to school. And she will not be stopped. And there is at least one more really special thing the artist did. Let us see if you can figure out what it is. How does he show us, in a very clever way, that she is a small child? He makes the painting go only up to the shoulders of the men protecting her. This does two things. First, it shows us how small she is. And it allows us to look at only her face. The men are perhaps in a little bit of danger as well, but it doesn't compare to hers. And this painting is about her courage, especially. It will always be a special celebration of a child's courage. No wonder Ruby Bridges was invited to the White House by President Obama to see the painting, which hung there during his presidency. So, as always, I like to end by giving the painting my own title. The title given to the painting by the artist is The Problem We All Live With. But my title is The Courage of Ruby Bridges. What's yours? Thanks for watching another Knowable World mini lesson on YouTube, kids. Stay tuned for more mini lessons. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. And please come visit us at knowableworld.com. See you again soon.